secure from the pests, of a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. Pay them with their own country. We shall prevail.
From the Great Basin to the Rockies to the four corners of Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico, this is KMMU Main Street Media Utah, coming to you live. You can find us on Rumble, YouTube, X, and our website, kmmu.org. Please join our host, Goud Maragani, for the Goud Crowd, the only radio broadcast good enough to be monitored by Utah's State Bureau of Investigation. Take it away, Goud. There's a saying, all good things must come to an end. In local news, Park City Mountain's ski season ends today. Guests and resort employees say there were some highs and lows this season. The ski patrol strike back in late December lasted nearly 2 weeks into early January. John Canale, communications manager for Park City Mountain, feels they were able to bounce back. We had a start to the season that wasn't what we wanted to have with the strike. We were happy to put that behind us, come out of it, and work really hard for the rest of the season to make sure everyone visiting the mountain could have just a great time, Canale said. In other news, cheers, chants, and even some boos were heard from the steps of the Utah Capitol Saturday afternoon. The Utah Highway Patrol estimated that 2,500 people gathered to carry out the 5501 movement, which means 50 protests, 50 states, one movement, and is meant to protest the current Trump administration. That's the point of our democracy, to come speak our minds to the people that are supposed to represent us. And if we don't feel like they're representing us, then we need to come here and show them that that's not what the constituents want, said Utah resident Scout Hamilton. Hamilton is no stranger to protests. She attended the hands-off protest that took place several weeks ago. However, she said there's one big difference this time around. Unfortunately, I don't see the same crowds, but I think that just comes with people getting more and more discouraged by what's happening out there, Hamilton said. Maybe people are just getting tired of the protests. In national news, since taking office, Joe Biden's administration has released at least 4.6 million illegal aliens into the country, with 1.8 million known gotaways. In many states, these illegal aliens are eligible for driver's licenses and other benefits, providing ample opportunities to illegally register to vote in the federal elections. In some jurisdictions, non-citizens are even able to vote in local elections. While only U.S. citizens can legally vote in federal elections, federal law has generally preempted and undermined state laws requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote in such elections. Representative Chip Roy's SAVE Act would fix this problem and uphold and strengthen current law by requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote in federal elections. The SAVE Act amends the National Voter Registration Act, NVRA, of 1993 to require states to obtain documentary proof of U.S. citizenship and identity in person when registering an individual to vote in a federal election. Seems to be an 80-20 voter issue, but it has raised controversy. What do you think, Goud?
Hello. I think I'm on, right?
Did we lose you? There. You are. You
I
are
feel
live.
a little frozen. Okay. Okay, everybody. Well, welcome to the Goud crowd. I think we're a few minutes late today, so apologies. We had a little bit of a technical issue. We have a good show today. A lot to cover. I think the news brief just covered the SAVE Act, so we'll talk about that. We're going to have, just for upcoming events on Saturday, the Utah County GOP is having their organizing convention. So we will have candidates who are running for various positions there call in. We'll start that at 5:30, I think, or just after 5:30. And if I understand this correctly, the only officer position that's contested in Utah County is the secretary. Every other, so it's the chair, the vice chair, the treasurer, I think are all uncontested. So I believe one of the secretarial candidates is planning to call in. And then we'll also have some of the state central committee members who are running call in. So if you're a county delegate in Utah County, this will be a great place for you to get information. My phone lines are open. So if you are listening and just want to call in and share your thoughts, feel free. It's 385-899-2134. This is the Goud crowd. So, if you want to be a part of the crowd, you should feel free to call in and join. And I love hearing from you. It's always kind of interesting for me. Plus, my lonely call screener, also known as Mr. Producer, is waiting. Okay, just to start, little personal note. My 11-year-old nephew was in town. I have two nephews. And because he wanted to go skiing, I actually went down to California a few months ago and took him skiing for the first time at Big Bear Mountain, which is a few hours from my sister's house. And then he wanted to go some more, so he came up here, and on Saturday and Sunday we actually went skiing. I learned that Alta is not a good ski resort for a beginner. We ended up going on one run, and it took us 2 hours to get down because he kept on their easiest hill. He kept falling and losing his skis and having trouble putting them on. It was traumatizing. I don't know if it's for him, probably for both of us. So then I took him to Solitude, and it actually turned out fantastic. So he was not willing to go on anything but the bunny hill on Solitude until the afternoon yesterday. And I can confidently say, I think he has left a much better skier than he came here as. So it was very rewarding and fun. I don't know if anybody cares about that, but I did. So I want to share it. Anyway, so, okay, let's talk we'll start with the SAVE Act, because I actually think this is an interesting issue. I just let me do one thing here. And then also Aaron Davidson, the Utah County Clerk, is going to call in because there's been some interesting developments on the SAVE Act issue. And I think Aaron is really the only county clerk we have in Utah who is not just completely is not part of the establishment. And I think those of you who know him know that that's true. Okay, so let's talk about this. So on this weekend, let me pull up this X post, because what we got was confirmation from an elected official that there are illegal aliens who are registered to vote in Utah. And just so everyone knows, I could have told you this months ago, but Utahns, there's probably a lot of you have recognized this, but a lot of Utahns are very over trusting of people in political office, or in government positions. I tend to think people in government positions overall, there's a lot of corruption in government, and you're not required to trust them. But there is this default, and I think some of it is being overly nice, some of it is being naive, that all these people in office are just totally honest and they're the best people. And I just don't think the best people go into government. So, especially not elected office. I mean, we have some good people in elected office. Unfortunately, we have a lot of very bad people in it too. So Carrie Ann Lisenby, she's a House rep, posted that we've recently discovered that illegal immigrants are voting in Utah elections in violation of our Utah Constitution. That's also in violation of federal law. Then she says, I and other elected officials have suspected this could be happening for years, but county clerks have assured us that it is impossible for illegal immigrants to vote in Utah. I think that if there were I'd like to know which county clerks were assuring our elected officials that, because that's a flat out lie. At the same time, some clerks have been approving illegal immigrant voter registrations. They recently admitted that they simply treat the checkbox on the voter registration form attesting citizenship as proof of citizenship. So, when you register to vote, you have to mark the box saying that you are a U.S. citizen. It just has a little checkbox. There are county clerks in Utah who take that as being proof of citizenship. And by the way, I think one of them is Salt Lake County's clerk, who is Lanny Chapman, who is funded by Soros. Okay, so the fact that she is doing that, I'm pretty sure she's doing it, but I wouldn't be surprised, because that's what Soros is paying for. You don't get money from Soros unless you are willing to cheat. That's the whole point. So then she says, to resolve this problem, in addition to access to better data, which is an issue, that's a real issue, we need a process in code that requires ongoing maintenance of the list and removal of the ineligible voters after notification if no proof of citizenship is provided. Okay. Then she says, during the last legislative session, there was a bill that would have created a process to prevent illegal immigrant voter registration and to remove ineligible voters from the rolls during the session, but it failed. Majorities in both parties oppose illegal immigrants voting. Let's fix this in the special session. First of all, that's wrong. Democrats support illegal immigrants voting. They also support legal immigrants voting because they overwhelmingly vote for Democrats. That Democrats are the party of open borders. They want open borders because they want new voters. If you are a Republican, you need to understand this and call it out. Don't act like the majority of the Democrats in the legislature don't want illegal aliens voting. They want them to vote. Those are their voters. Of course they want them to vote. Okay. It annoys me because I don't know if we have Republicans that are this naive in Utah, but we just watched for 4 years as the Democrats actively used our taxpayer money to import 20 million people into the US. Why do you think they did that? They did that because those are voters. That's all they care about is votes and power and destroying the country. That is the Democrat Party. And if you're a Democrat out there listening, you feel free to quote me on that. That is, the Democrat Party in my mind is nothing more than a glorified criminal organization. Okay, so now the problem is I don't even know that they have the means to be able to verify citizenship. Last year, I think it was last year, maybe somewhat into 2023, I went back and forth with the Lieutenant Governor's office asking them how they are verifying that people who are registered to vote are citizens. And I was not able to get an answer. Okay, the main answer I got was that if my if my camera starts to have problems, if you're watching, I apologize. As you know, I have a crappy computer. Okay, we'll get that out there. I'm not going to repeat my story, but okay. But so what was I saying?
Hey, Goud, we're gonna get you a better camera, okay?
Oh, that's good. Can I have a filter on it to make me look super handsome? Okay.
I can do a lot. I
what was
cannot
saying?
perform miracles, okay?
Okay. Oh, geez, I just lost my train of thought on this. Okay. Anyway, it's fine. So basically, the reason this is becoming an issue, though, is here's what it was. When I went to the lieutenant governor's office, they said when someone registers to vote, they either have to put their driver's license number or their social security number on the voter registration form. And so what they do is, if you put your social security number on there, they go to the Social Security Administration, ask if it's your number. If they verify it's your number, then they will register you to vote. Same thing with the driver's license. If you put your driver's license number, they'll go to the driver's license division, ask them to make sure verify it's yours, and then they'll register you to vote. The problem is, or my next question, let me say, was, okay, well, when you can put aside illegal immigrants for just a second, but legal immigrants get the exact same social security number and driver's license number as a citizen. So when you go to the driver's license division or the Social Security Administration and you give them the number you've been given, do they come back and tell you if the number belongs to a citizen or a non-citizen? And at that point, the lieutenant governor's office stopped answering my questions. And I'm tenacious, so I went back and forth. It was with Ryan Cowley, the director of elections. Multiple times I kept following up, and he just stopped responding. So I think he stopped responding because I don't actually think either of those agencies actually provide citizenship data, right? And so really, those are not methods to be able to verify your citizenship. Now, that's where the SAVE Act comes in. The SAVE Act shifts the burden. So instead of having the lieutenant governor or the clerks go and try to figure out if you're a citizen, it puts the onus on you to prove that you're a citizen, which is a better way to do this, because you will actually have documents in your control that will allow you to demonstrate that you're a citizen. And it is much easier for you to do it than to have some government employee going after these agencies trying to find the information and maybe hitting dead ends because they can't figure it out, just because this is complicated, bizarrely complicated. So, of course, and so the SAVE Act this is a bill that's been proposed by Senator Mike Lee. And the reason Mike Lee has done this is he said, look, we need people to prove they're citizens when they register to vote, so we can make sure only citizens are voting. Because as Representative Lisenby has confirmed, we have illegal immigrants voting. And if we have illegal immigrants voting, we also have legal immigrants voting. I just want to add as an aside, Lieutenant Governor Henderson, who is now in her 5th year in office, announced within the last few days that she is now going to audit the voter rolls for citizenship, to make sure that, well, I wouldn't say make sure, to figure out how many non-citizens are on our voter rolls. So the first 4 years, she called people who asked questions about elections names. She disparaged us. Her latest one was she called people like me election vigilantes for asking any questions. But it turns out every single question that we've been asking has been right and should have been asked years ago. So I've been asking this question about how many non-citizens are on our voter rolls with no answers about this. She initially was claiming that makes you an election vigilante. Now she's admitting by having to do the audit, this is a problem. She should have been doing this audit every single year as lieutenant governor and pulling every single person who is not a citizen off of those voter rolls. Now I think it raises a question. I'll be honest, I don't think she should actually do the audit, because she has shown, first of all, number one, that she will cheat. I think the signature collection problem, scandal with her and Governor Cox, that is a damning scandal. I think because they won't show us the signatures, we should assume that they cheated at this point. That's the only explanation for why you wouldn't show people what you are basing your right to be on the Utah GOP primary ballot. So there's multiple people who have been now indicted for fraud during the signature collection process. But the thing is like Derek Brown is an ally of Governor Cox. So he has so I think we're only at the tip of the iceberg, and that the Attorney General's office is not actually going to go after every single person who committed fraud when they were gathering signatures. And speaking of that, I'm going to try to get Michael Clara on next week. I've been meaning to do it, but I was a little bit short time this week. So we'll bring him on next week so that we can kind of have a discussion about what he has found on the signature gathering piece. But I think the problems that happen with signature gathering, the lack of transparency, the fact that she was willing to do anything to get onto that, onto the GOP primary ballot after they lost at convention, shows that she should not be the one running any sort of audit of citizenship data for our voter registration rolls. And here's why. She has every incentive to minimize and downplay the problem. My prediction is, if this is done properly, there will be thousands of non-citizens on our voter rolls. Every single non-citizen on that voter roll is another reason to end her political career. And I'll be honest with you, I actually think her political career is pretty much dead, but we want to make sure that it's completely gone, because she should not be in any elected office. And that's why I think she should not be running the audit. We should actually have an independent outside group do it. Or maybe I would even be okay with the state auditor doing it. So a party that doesn't have a stake in the outcome. That's what we need. Hey, Mr. Producer, when we start to get phone calls from people, because I think Neil Sebring is going to call in, and then we'll have other people after that.
Neil is on now.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Neil, go ahead. Say hello to Goud.
Hey, Goud, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing good.
Okay. Do you want to tell us about the proposal that you're going to make at the state convention?
Yeah. So I submitted a bylaw amendment that would keep SEC, that would keep elected officials from running and serving on the SEC, elected officials and their staff and employees and lobbyists as well. And so one of the reasons, and several of the counties have already passed this, but there have been a couple of counties that are a little more resistant, and part of it is their dynamic, their makeup. You know, Salt Lake County is certainly more blue than the other counties, and so I believe that's why it didn't pass at the county level. But it's important that we preserve the SEC. The purpose of the SEC essentially is the governing body of the party, and we want that. And their sole, responsibility is to ensure that the party operates independently, that it prioritizes its members' values and effectively executes its responsibilities of organizing. And so having elected officials on there, it's a conflict of interest.
Well, I guess, how do you think it negatively impacts the SCC to have elected officials, their employees, or lobbyists on, as a member of the SCC?
Well, I mean, a couple of the, there's multiple different conflicts of interest and political challenges that justify keeping them off. Number one, they are elected to fulfill a job they were elected to do. And if those elected officials are able to be on the SEC, which again is the governing body of the party, they can influence the party direction in ways that, because they are have to be accountable to their constituents to get elected. And so that conflict of interest is, they may not necessarily do what's in the party's best interest to keep the party strong and to serve its members if they have constituents in their elected position that, aren't interested in keeping the party strong and it prioritizing its members. The other, thing is really and truly they should be focusing on what they were elected to do and not, affecting the change of the party.
Okay. Well, so you earlier said this was brought up at the Salt Lake County CCM, right?
Correct.
Okay. And what were some of the concerns raised that caused it to fail?
Well, mostly most of the concerns actually came from elected officials that were trying to preserve their ability to be on the SEC. Dan McKay and Doug Fufia and, multiple others got up and spoke against, it, saying that why do we want to preclude them? Well, again, in a lot of people's opinions, it's a conflict of interest to because they are beholden to their constituents to do what they were elected to do, and they can negatively impact the party if they're, following that rather than keeping the party's interests at heart.
Okay. Where can people find more information about the proposal, and where can they get into contact with you?
I can, you can get out my email or phone number, and certainly I have the bylaw amendment has been sent to the state party. And so within the state convention agenda, they should be able to find it once it's posted and put up there. But anybody that, wants to reach out to me and has any questions, the goal obviously is to get the state delegates who will be voting on it at state convention to recognize the benefits of it. And on the bylaw amendment, we have over 47 co-sponsors. And these 47 co-sponsors are people that truly believe that we should keep elected officials off the SEC. And, that those co-sponsors include a lot of people that are, a lot of them on the SEC, even some elected officials, Phil Lyman and others have, they recognize that there should be that separation between elected officials and our governing body. And so, like I say, I can give my email. I don't know if that's I should just say it on the air. I'm fine with that, or what? What you guys?
You can say it on the air if you want. I don't care.
So yeah, it's just MANO3781 @gmail. So MANO3781 @gmail.com. And anybody that wants to email me and has any questions, I'll be more happy to send them the link to the actual bylaw so they can read it, and I can answer any questions that they'd like.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, if you wanna send it to me too, Neil, I'll put it on X so people can see it.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, thanks for calling in. Okay. So anyway, I actually, I'll be honest, I think that's a good proposal. Part of the problem with having elected officials on the state central committee is that it starts to mix roles, meaning this: the party's role is to get people into office who are going to enact the platform, right? So meaning when they're proposing bills, they're doing it in a way that conforms to the Republican platform. But when you have elected officials on the state set, and when the elected officials do not pass laws that conform with our platform and they start doing things that Democrats want, that state central committee should be holding them accountable, meaning doing things like censoring them, telling them that we don't want you to, our voters don't want that. You need to stop doing that. We represent our voters. And that hasn't been happening because of the fact that there are elected officials on these bodies. So if you get rid of the elected officials and let them focus on their elected official job, then your state central committee can actually do a better job of making sure that our Republican elected officials are actually doing the things that we told voters that they'll do. The reason to vote Republican is you'll get lower taxes, for example, or you'll get school choice. Whatever that looks like. I'm not trying to advocate for a particular way to do it. Or we'll get the trans agenda out of your schools. For example, Todd Weiler, who I have coined a tranny chaser, is he is not a Republican by any means, and the state central committee should hold him accountable for that, for his promotion of the trans agenda, his obsession with it. Really, it's really, really strange. But he's not a Republican, but if he's going to claim the moniker and say he is one, the state central committee should at least hold him to account when he starts going off the reservation and doing crazy stuff like he does, which is he supports mutilating and sterilizing children who have gender dysphoria. Our party is against that and has repeatedly expressed that, even with state central committee votes. So if you're not willing to hold elected officials accountable who continue to promote things that you as a party have said you don't support and that your voters overwhelmingly do not support, then I don't know what the point is, right? People will stop voting Republican if they think they're not going to get what we're telling them they're going to get by voting for us. Okay, Mr. Producer, we should be getting more calls from people in Utah County. So as they come in, just go ahead and pipe them in. And we'll start going through them.
As soon as they come in, I'll let you know.
Perfect. Okay. All right. While we wait for that, though, I'm going to talk. We'll come back to the SAVE Act because I have time, I think, at the end. I feel like I've kind of set this up okay so that when Aaron Davidson comes on, we can talk about it. The reason why, well, let me get back to that piece. The reason why I want to talk about this today is that I saw this post that Aaron did. Let me get it. Hold on. I have it here somewhere. I can't find it. Well, so Aaron Davidson said that he had Aaron Davidson had said that he had actually asked for citizenship data points from the lieutenant governor's office months ago because he wanted to conduct an audit. Here we go. Okay, and let me show this to you. Here's his post. So he says, I asked for the citizenship data points in the voter roll for Utah County months ago so I could do an audit, but I have still not received it. And this is in response to the lieutenant governor saying, like I was saying earlier, my office is conducting a full citizenship audit of Utah's voter rolls, similar to those recently conducted by other states. The audit would give us insight into the scope of any current problems and vulnerabilities and help us identify what changes may be needed to ensure that only eligible citizens are voting. More details will be forthcoming. Now, as I said, she's in her 5th year of office. This should have happened years ago. It clearly didn't, but the point is, Aaron's already has asked for this information from the lieutenant governor. I'm wondering what he asked for specifically and what kind of a response he got from the lieutenant governor's office. And so that's what I'm hoping we'll get more information about today when he calls in. And then I can get into more details about the SAVE Act and kind of what's been going on with that and all the, yeah, like I said earlier, I think the lieutenant governor has no incentive to be honest about this. And the Mr. Producer says, we've investigated ourselves and found we're completely compliant. That's what I think we're going to find. But the reality is, okay, based on what I showed you earlier about Representative Lisenby's post, I guarantee you there are thousands of people who are not citizens that are on our voter rolls. So if she actually does a real audit and is honest about it, there will be thousands of people that have to be removed because they are not citizens of the United States. And then the question will be, was it enough to impact elections in our state? It's possible it could have been, depending on what the volume is. And I think that'll be the final nail in the coffin of her political career. There's really no reason to have this woman in any office at all. She's horrible. But the fact that she's been the lieutenant governor and has done a horrible job running elections, I think is just going to kill her political career. And it couldn't come a moment too soon because she's horrible. Okay, let me show you this. I thought this was kind of interesting. I've been noticing, and this is a little off topic, so we'll do this for a second because it's a short one for me. If I can find what I was going to show you. Oh, here we go. Okay, so this is about I've been seeing. I want to say this in a way that is appropriate for YouTube. Okay, so I did not take the COVID vaccine. How about that? Because I have some doubts about it, and I'll just say that COVID and the response to it, and then all the things that exposed about how our medical system is run, and raised a lot of questions for me about vaccines, what types of effects they could have on people, and whether we're being given enough information to be able to make an informed decision about whether to take them or to give them to children. Okay, that's my point. So here, this is oh, someone wants to join. What's this? Your guest Goud crowd wants to join. I don't know what this means. Someone blocked. I don't know what's going on. Okay.
That was me, Goud. I got bumped off, but I'm back.
Oh, I might be the worst. I'm not a producer, right. Remember?
Well, and I've got Elizabeth Rivera calling in.
Oh, perfect.
Hang on,
okay.
Let me get around for you. Hang on.
Okay. All right. I'll come back to this. There's a point to what I'm trying to show you guys right now. But I'll stop sharing because I'm not trying to ruin someone else's interview with my personal agenda.
Yes, hi.
This is Dwayne. I'm going to drop you into Goud's show. Hang on just a second.
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me,
There you
Elizabeth?
go.
I can't.
Okay. So I guess tell the audience your name and what office you're running for, or what position.
My name is Elizabeth Jean Rivera, and I'm running for the Utah County Republican Party Secretary.
Okay. And why should delegates vote for you?
Well, I am a really organized person who's good at communication. I've talked to Christy, the chair, and talked about kind of what the position entails. And I think that that's something that not only I would do well, but excel at. I'm a mom of 3, and I manage my husband's veterinary practice. So I'm just used to getting things organized. But the clinic or the hospital runs so well now that I have all this extra time, and I want to devote it to a good cause. So that's why I decided to run.
Okay. What should delegates expect you to do differently than the current secretary?
Well, just the ones I talked to, they want communication to be better, which I can absolutely guarantee that it will. I'll be available to all the delegates and make sure they get the information they need. Also, I'm going to work very hard on outreach. I think that that's super important right now with the kind of voter turnout we have in Utah. We want to reach current people that are able to vote, and we want to reach new voters, like younger voters as well. Reach out to minority groups and things like that. So definitely those are the things that I'm going to work on. And also with VoterClick, I know that there's some issues that people have with the emails that get sent out from VoterClick. So I'm going to be shopping around and seeing if there's something that we can use that works better for that. But basically, if something needs to be changed, that's what I'm going to work to do. I'm not going to be part of like, this is how we've always done it. I want to get in and help things run smoother.
Okay. Well, how can people find you?
Well, my email is ejrivera910@gmail.com. My phone number is 910-583-2013. I'm also on social media. You just search my name. I'm a state delegate as well for Utah State, so you can find me that way. But yeah, please reach out. I'm going to a meet and greet right now to meet with the county delegates, and I'll also be obviously at the convention next weekend.
Okay. Hey, where's that meet and greet at?
It's at Mountain View High School in Orem, and it's from 6:30 to 8:30 tonight.
Okay, great. Thanks for calling in. Good luck on Saturday.
Hey, thanks so much. Bye.
Okay. Well, if you're listening and you want to go and meet the people running, you could go to the meet and greet. Although you should go at 7 after the show's over. Yeah. They'll still be there after that. Okay, I think we got someone else in the queue, so let's see who this is. Should be Marilyn. You can put her through, Mr. Producer. Where is he? I could say random things, but I don't feel like it right now. I will say Utah County, I think you guys are going to have a really contested election for 26 with the county clerk. The establishment is going to come after your county clerk like there's no tomorrow. Okay, Mr. Producer, we got the next person.
Marilyn. Marilyn, go ahead.
Okay.
Good afternoon. This is Marilyn Momini.
Great. Hey, nice to meet you, Marilyn. What are you running for at the Utah County GOP convention?
I am running for one of the 6 slots that's available for the State Central Committee for Senate District 21 and the Utah County portion of Senate District 19. They put those 2 together, and there's 6 slots altogether. So I'm running for one of those slots.
Okay. And why should delegates vote for you?
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. One is over the past few years, I have been pretty heavily involved in the legislative process. I always paid attention before, but I've been very involved. Like you, I have some interest in election integrity, and I've followed the legislation. I've been able to build some relationships with legislators. So I think I'm very aware of that legislative process. I'm also, I think, pretty fair-minded and reasonable. I can listen to multiple sides of an issue and give credence to all of the different people. There have been times when I've gone to a county convention when we're discussing a bylaw or a resolution where I thought I was going to vote one way, but after I heard all of the information from people, some that I just were issues I wasn't aware of, I changed my vote. So I think I'm pretty reasonable and open-minded and pretty fair in the way I approach things.
Oh, okay. Are you on the SCC right now?
I am not on the SCC right now. I have not ever served on the SCC before, so this will be a new thing for me.
Okay. So where can people find you?
So people can find me. I have actually texted all of the delegates, so they have my phone number via a text message, or I actually started calling people, but I figured I wasn't going to get through 375 delegates, so I texted them, and I sent them emails. So they're welcome to reach out to me. My phone number's in both the text and the email, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and some have done that, and I've had some great discussions with people about specific issues.
Very cool. Okay, well, thanks for calling in, and good luck on Saturday.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time and attention.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. You know, when I ran for county clerk, I remember some friends of mine were like, hey, every single night when you are done with work, starting at 5:30, you need to pull out the delegate list and start running down and calling people. So I would actually, that's what I did. Every single night, 5:30 to like 8:30 about, I would just go down the delegate list, call people. And, you know, in that case, it was whatever, the number is 1,200 delegates. I didn't get through everybody, but I got through a lot of them. And I mean, sometimes you don't get everybody on the phone, but that can be a very eye-opening experience. But I do think you'll find people really appreciate the phone calls. I remember seeing later on Twitter at the time, someone actually posted saying, "Oh, they were saying it in a negative way, but oh, that Goud guy's been calling everybody. I've heard from multiple delegates."
You've got another caller, Goud.
Oh, okay. Put them through.
I have Cami. Cami, go ahead. Say hello to Goud.
Hey, Goud. This is Tammy Flake.
Yeah. Hey, Tammy. Okay, so it's flake like snowflake, right? So
like a snowflake.
Love it. Okay. So what are you running for at the Utah County GOP convention?
So I am running for one of the two spots available for the SCC for districts 26 and 27.
Okay. And why should delegates vote for you?
So I believe in our Republican platform in Utah, and I believe it needs to stay afloat. And so if you see any of my stuff, it's probably got rubber duckies all over it, because I am willing to make a splash to stand up for our principles. And I believe that our Utah platform needs to stay just as strong as it ever has been.
Okay. Will this be your first time on the SCC if you win?
Yes, it will be. I am currently our precinct chair. And so I was a state delegate first. And then as I learned more about what delegates do, I wanted to become precinct chair so that more people in our area would get involved. And I've been really enjoying getting more people's voices heard.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, where can people find you?
So anybody can text or call me, or they can find me on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, and it's just under Tammy Flake.
Okay. Well, fantastic. Thank you for calling in, and good luck on Saturday.
Thanks so much, Goud. Have a great day.
You too. Oh, how fun. You know, I feel like if my last name were Flake, like Snowflake, I love it. I would totally give out snowflakes at the, at the little meet and greets. Like little snowflakes, maybe give them to little kids and have them run around. It's like, remember I don't know if you guys remember the woman with the last name
Aaron. It gives me it gives me an interpretation of what you said when you when you answered. So Aaron, this is Dwayne, and I'm going to tell Goud you're on here, and you can say hello. Hang on.
Okay, great.
I don't think. It's kind of funny. I don't think he realized we heard everything he said.
Ah, well, you got a queue going here, Goud. So.
I know.
Aaron.
So it's another one of those days.
Aaron, go ahead.
We got Aaron David on.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Hey, Aaron, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Hey, I'm putting up the post that you put on X so that people can see it about about requesting the citizenship data points. Before we get to that, can you talk about or describe how your office handles a newly completed voter registration form? So what kind of checks do you do on it? I guess where do you input it? Like, how does that process work?
Now, you know what the VISTA system is, right?
I do. I don't know that listeners know.
Okay. So I can probably just explain the fact that the VISTA system is the system developed by the state to manage the voter records.
Okay. Okay. And so if somebody let's say somebody moves to Lehigh, they send in a voter registration form, what does your office do with it?
So basically everything on the voter registration form are fields that we have to enter into the VISTA system in order to make them an active voter. My contention is that it's all kind of maintained at the state level. So I have the paper form, and I could go back to the paper form. But what's nice about a database is you can do queries to see the data differently. You can, see how many people were born out of the country. Well, there's no way for me to really do that effectively if I have to interact with the VISTA system directly with the forms that they provide us with. But if I could get the raw data, I could bring it into Excel or Access and do some more data analysis, which I can't do. And I requested that information from the state months ago, and they just kind of not giving it to me.
Okay. I am wondering, when you say citizenship data points, what information did you ask for? Did you have like specific data elements you were looking for, or was it something more general than that?
Yeah, so it's basically where they were born, and if it's out of the state, out of the country, the naturalization location and date.
Oh, wow. Okay. And do we know if the lieutenant governor's office has that data?
Oh yeah, they have it. I mean, I can view it through the Vista system, but I would have to scroll through and look at each person individually on the screen. Whereas if you get the raw data, like in an Excel spreadsheet format and do a filter on it, then I can filter it by everybody that's born out of the country, and then I can look at, just looking down, who doesn't have a naturalization location or a naturalization date posted on their record, because I know that there are some that don't.
Oh, okay. If you found records that don't have that information, what would be the next steps?
That's my point of contention. Is I don't think that there's anything I can do if the voter checked the box saying I am a citizen, and then they affirm it with their signature. Because that's the only verification that we can do right now. Is if they say they're a citizen, we have to accept it. We have no other.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God, that's insane. I wasn't expecting that. So would you be able to take that? Here's my question. Would you, let's say that happens, there's a voter who was born outside the country, and there's no naturalization certificate or naturalization location information in their entry. Could you take that entry and then just refer it to the district attorney or the Utah County Attorney's Office and let them handle it? Or do you think the way you interpret the law is you just can't do anything at that point as long as they've signed the form and checked the box saying they're a citizen?
Yeah, they've signed it and they've affirmed it. The only repercussion that happens is if they go to get citizenship and a naturalization attorney calls me to verify that they've never voted, I can look it up to see if they voted and say, yes, they voted, and then they can no longer become a citizen. And then it's up to that lawyer. And that's happened to me 3 times where, an immigration lawyer has called me and said, has this person voted? And I looked them up, and sure enough, they have voted.
Wow. Okay, so did you see the post by Representative Lisenby this weekend?
Yes,
by any chance? Okay. And do you have, I'll see if I can pull it up again, but she's saying that there are county clerks that are actually that are approving voter registration forms by illegal aliens. Do you have any thoughts on that? I guess I'm a little bit puzzled about, maybe my question is, how would you know that it's an illegal alien that actually filled out the voter form?
That's the problem. We can't verify it. We don't have access to any system to verify that.
Okay.
As per state code. Now, I did find some federal code that says that I should be able to have access to the Immigration and Naturalization Service information. But I'm trying to find, I've just started to research on how to gain access to that information, and if I actually can use it to verify legal status here in Utah, because there's state code and then there's federal code. But just because there's federal code, that really only applies to federal races and not state races. Now, I know the states try to mimic the federal code because how do you allow a person to vote, not vote in a federal election, but allow them to vote in the state and county elections on the same ballot in an even year that has both federal and county and state races.
There would be no way to do that, right? Because aren't the actual ballots secret ballots?
Yeah, you're right. You couldn't do it.
Okay. Have you? Well, let me ask this. So the lieutenant governor has said that she has issues with the SAVE Act and thinks it's problematic. Do you have a position on the SAVE Act, the act that Congress is looking at about requiring people to prove citizenship?
I totally approve of it. And her calling it problematic is, I don't know if you noticed, when she called it problematic, I commented on that post, and I've received almost as many likes on my comment as she has on her post.
I didn't see that. That's awesome.
I'm trying to find that post, but it's not. I wonder if she took it down.
Oh, let me see if I can find it. I'm not the best. I find the searching on my computer to be kind of hard on X, but let's see if I can do it. Let's see.
It would have been before that one. Meant to do with UEA. Oh, she may have done it on her other account. She has 2 accounts.
Oh, you mean the Deidre Henderson one?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't see it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it now because it was before the post where she said they're doing an audit. I'm not seeing it now. I wonder if she took it down.
Okay. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm not finding it either. I can't find it either. I think it's gone.
Oh. I think what you did, I think that's called a ratio. Maybe after she got ratioed,
she got ratioed. She got ratioed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just trying to think about anything else here. Well, do you have a sense of how bad the problem is in terms of non-citizens being registered to vote in Utah? Or is this more of an unknown because we just don't have the data to be able to check?
I think it's more unknown because we can't check. So I know, everyone's saying illegals can get driver license, but they can get a driver's privilege card, but not a driver's license. And those are 2 different forms of identification. And we're not supposed to accept driver privilege cards. We're only supposed to accept driver licenses.
Right. But I think, I had some back and forth with the lieutenant governor's office about this issue, about how they verify citizenship. I think I had this happen in 23 and 24. And they said that if somebody writes their driver's license number on the voter registration form, that they will verify that license number with the driver's license division. But if you put aside the illegal immigrant issue, legal immigrants get the exact same driver's licenses that citizens get. And when I asked them if the driver's license division comes back and tells them if somebody is a citizen or not, they wouldn't answer the question. They just ghosted me at that point. So I still think even if illegal immigrants are getting driver's privileges cards, there's still legal immigrants that are non-citizens getting they get the same driver's license as we do, right?
Right.
Um,
It's a good system right now. You know, and her calling it problematic. The problematic portion is that there is no true verification.
Yeah.
That's what I find problematic.
Okay. Well, where can people find you, Aaron, if they want to follow what you're doing and, you know, or help you out as you head into your re-election in next year?
Probably either on X or Facebook.
Okay.
On X, my what is my tagline? A.R. Davidson. Is on, you know, the at A.R. Davidson. That's my tagline, my tag on X.
Okay.
And then on Facebook, and it's just my personal account. I haven't created a clerk account. And then I do have a web address URL, but I don't ever look at it right now. I probably won't look at it till next year, but it's clerkdavidson.com.
Okay. Well, thanks for calling in. We appreciate it.
No, not a problem. Anytime, Goud.
Okay. We shall.
Right.
Okay. I gotta say, see that's actually very helpful because Aaron has deep knowledge about the election system, but also it's kind of scary, right? That they're not able to check that you're a citizen, which is why like I said earlier, right now, the onus is being put on government officials to try to figure out in each, you know, in every clerk's, in these big offices like Salt Lake County, Utah County, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of voters to figure out if this person that registers to vote is a citizen. And they're not getting sufficient data to do that. But really, I don't know, the onus should be on the individual who is registering to vote. And I think the SAVE Act does a better job of switching the burden. So let me pull this up and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Try to keep the show a little bit informative. So give me 1 second. I'll pull up the law for you. Oh, actually, first, before we get there, let me show you this from the Lieutenant Governor, and then I think this will make more sense. Hold on. Okay. And then we'll get to the actual law. So here's my images, and I'll show you what the Lieutenant Governor said. So she said, so Utah's top election official doesn't like the SAVE Act either. Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson told KSL in a statement Monday the bill is problematic and impractical on almost all points except its talking points. That's an amazing statement. Like I said, I think she's a Democrat, and I hope people are waking up to that. It says, this is your typical kind of media crap, but fears about voter fraud are at the heart of the legislation, which passed the U.S. House last week and awaits a vote in the Senate. These are not irrational fears. Aaron just testified that there were three legal immigrants who voted in elections in Utah County. And what Democrats will say is, oh, don't worry about it. There's not widespread voter fraud. Well, we don't know that. We just know that there's 3 of these non-citizens who voted when they shouldn't have been voting, which means they canceled out 3 citizens' votes. But there could be more because, again, like he said, they're not able to actually figure out if somebody is a citizen or not. Now, in her statement to KSL, Henderson did not say how the change could affect Utah's access to registering to vote, but did say she's not the only state election officer who takes issue with it. I interpret that to mean she hasn't actually read the SAVE Act, which wouldn't surprise me, because if you look back at her record of the things that she's done being in office, it's very clear that she's not intelligent and that she does not actually do the work needed to be knowledgeable about issues. I'm going to point you guys to the best example of this. And this is the one where I just don't think she should be anywhere near any sort of power, because she clearly has abused it. And I am not okay with it. So here, I'll share my screen. I'm hoping this will work, but if it doesn't, maybe it's for the best, because honestly, listening to her voice is like nails on a chalkboard. This is good. I'm going to apologize to everybody if you're listening. Okay, like, this is going to take you back to COVID. So just listen up and see I'll show you what happens. Okay, here we go. Oh, trying to get it. Okay, here we go. God, this is so annoying. Okay.
And we're
Well, it's for basically in this.
Goud, if it doesn't play, pass me the link and I'll play it for you.
Okay, I'll send it to you. Hold on. We'll blame my computer for this. Okay, where's my little message to you? I can't send it to you.
You can put it in the private chat.
Oh, here's the chat. Okay, sorry, it wasn't showing up. There you go. Okay, well, I'm Mr. Producer. Pull that up. I actually think you need to hear it so you can fully understand why I am saying what I am saying about her. But basically, she went and gave this press conference where she told employers that she and Governor Cox support them forcing people to take the COVAX. And I don't think that she read any studies about the vaccine before she promoted it. But I will note that she and Governor Cox have gotten in 2022, they got a $3,000 donation from Pfizer, and in 2023 they got a $2,000 donation in Pfizer. And for those of you who think that these politicians will not do what you want for that amount of money, I'm telling you they will. Oh, okay, let's see if it plays. You'll get to hear all the glory. This will take you back.
good. And we're also personal responsibility and consequences of actions. And so my message today for business owners is, Governor and I support you if you decide to require your employees to be vaccinated. We support you in that. My next message is for physicians. Studies have shown that physicians are likely people to be able to change someone's mind, to be able to get those who haven't been vaccinated to become vaccinated. Us standing up here talking to the unvaccinated is not going to move the needle much. But physicians, you play a critical role in this, and you have a responsibility as the leader in the healthcare industry, as someone that your patients look up to. Please reach out proactively to all of your patients who are not vaccinated and make sure they get vaccinated. We know that there are a lot of physicians who do not have vaccines in their clinics, and our health department, our local health departments, they're going to make this easier for you and are willing to work with you and pleading to work with you to make sure that you have supply needed. And
okay, so I hope you now can see. I just think in that case, number one, she did not read any studies about the vaccine. showing that they were safe or effective when she went and promoted allowing employers to mandate that you take a vaccine to keep your job. Number two, if you notice, she talks about studies when she talks about doctors. Her studies have nothing to do with whether the vaccine is safe. They're all about doctors persuading you to do things. That's all that was about. I just don't think someone like that should be in political power. That's someone that just succumbs to political pressure, has no principles, and will do things that actually hurt people if she thinks it will get her ahead in her political life. On top of that, her and Governor Cox took $5,000 in donations from Pfizer in 2022 and 2023. For those of you, like I was saying a minute ago, who think that that did not influence their decisions, I guarantee you it did. I have someone who told me that Amy Winder Newton once told them that for $500, she has donors that give her $500, and she actually thinks that's enough money for her to do what the donor wants. These people, a lot of these people are not high integrity people, and they will do what their donors want for low dollar amounts. They're essentially the political version of a prostitute. So take it for what it's worth. I do not think that woman belongs in public office. And I think now let's turn to the SAVE Act. So she's come out and put this criticism out there, right? But the SAVE Act is actually, honestly, I mean, I don't think she's read it, like I said, but it's actually pretty simple. So let's I'll pull it up for you. It's literally like I read this in 10 minutes, not hard. So you'd have to show documentary proof of citizenship, right? So here are the different options. A form of identification issued consistent with the requirements of the Real ID Act of 2005 that indicates the applicant is a U.S. citizen, a citizen of the United States. So interestingly, Utah has actually been issuing Real ID compliant driver's licenses since 2020. So like I moved here in 2020, I actually have the Real ID compliant driver's license. I don't know how it indicates I'm a citizen, but that could be your, if our driver's licenses are different for citizens, then that could actually be your proof right there. You could use your the applicant's military ID, right? So, but the military ID combined with a military record of service showing your place of birth. So for example, it could be like your DD-214, something like that, that would demonstrate you were born here, right? Because non-citizens can be in our military. A valid United States passport, anyone that has traveled will have one of those. And I feel like, I remember years ago, I had a law school friend and we were debating about requiring ID to be able to vote. Okay. And so she said to me, Goud, I know this woman who's 80 years old in a small town in a small town in North Carolina, and she doesn't have any photo ID. How is she supposed to vote? And I was like, how does she bank? That doesn't make any sense. And my friend said, oh, well, she knows all the people. She already knows the banker, so she doesn't have to show an ID. To be fair about this, I go to a local bank and, I know all the ladies that work there. I also don't have to show my ID if I go to make a deposit. They already know who I am. Okay, I get it. Fine. But then I was like, okay, so has she traveled? No, she doesn't go anywhere. How does she drive? Right? Her husband's dead. Oh, people, I guess her kids pick her up and drive her places. Okay. So according to my friend, we should not require a photo ID to vote because this one woman in rural North Carolina doesn't have an ID. Wouldn't the solution be for someone to drive to that woman's house and take her and get her an ID and solve the damn problem instead of changing all of our laws and making them less secure so that she doesn't have to have an ID anymore? I just found that, and that's what I said to her. I was like, why don't you drive down there and help her get an ID? You're wasting everybody's time. We don't make laws for this tiny little exception of what I think is a really strange person who's never had to have an ID in their entire life. We make our laws based on what the vast majority of people do. And that's all we can do. So That's what some of this stuff is like, though, right? It's they're trying to find this little tiny exception and then use that to make the rule, and it doesn't make any sense. Okay, so then you can get then the valid government issued photo ID issued by federal, state, or tribal government showing that your place of birth was in the U.S. Kind of what Aaron was just talking about. And let's see here. Oh, there's a bunch of stuff on here. So now, what liberals have been saying is that this bill is going to make it impossible or difficult for married women who have changed their names to vote. Okay. And first of all, let me just say, the majority of married women vote for Republicans. I guarantee you that the majority of married women who have changed their last names definitely vote Republican. They do not vote for Democrats. But the Democrats, give me 1 second, hold on. Ricky, come here. Ricky, come. Sorry about that. My dog was going a little crazy. Okay, so, but the point is, the majority of married women, and the vast majority, I'm sure, of married women who have changed their last names, vote Republican. Do you really think the Republican Party is going to make it impossible for those people to vote? I mean, can we put our logic hats on and realize that's not happening? I agree. The Republican Party is definitely the party is stupid. Okay, like, we have some of the dumbest elected officials to ever walk the earth. They do nothing. They are useless. Trump has been in office almost 100 days now, and the Congress has done literally nothing. Not a damn thing. In fact, they're on a 2-week break right now. I saw Blake Moore posting about how excited he is to be home, and I'm glad he got to celebrate Easter in Utah with his family. But go back to DC now, Easter, we're done, and do your job. Like, do your damn job. These people get paid almost $200,000 a year. They hardly work. We just won what I would call a massive mandate and a landslide, and they haven't done anything with it. I want to see every single federal judge that's run amok, pull them in, do a hearing, impeach them, get them out of those positions, defund their courts, get rid of all of the law clerks in the federal judiciary. I am getting exhausted of having my president's prerogatives constantly roadblocked by activist judges throughout the country in what is obviously a judicial coup. Where's Blake Moore? He's on vacation. He's on another vacation, a 2-week vacation. He's got no time to do that. Where's Celeste Malloy? She's on vacation. Where's John Curtis? He's on vacation. Like, do your damn jobs. None of these people do any work. Okay. Anyway, the point being, I think this entire issue of married women not being able to register to vote if the SAVE Act passes is a bunch of bullshit. It's their latest Democrat hoax. All you have to do is read the bill. Married women who change their names will obviously have a document showing that they changed their names. I think typically it's going to be your marriage certificate where you just write down that you took your husband's name. Done. So if you have, let's say you have your birth certificate, which would have your maiden name on it because you obviously weren't born with your husband's name, and then you would just show them that and then show them your marriage certificate. Done. That's it. This is so simple. The Democrats are trying to make this big deal about it because there is a portion of the population that falls for every stupid hoax that they come up with, and apparently just can't be convinced otherwise. So all of this opposition to the SAVE Act is just it's a bunch of BS by Democrats who are trying to throw a roadblock into it, because the real deal is there are, I would guess, across the country, hundreds of thousands and potentially millions of non-citizens on voter rolls in various states. Utah is no exception to that. Like I said, there are thousands of non-citizens on our voter rolls. I guarantee that. Now, we'll have to figure out at some point. Hopefully, we'll actually be able to figure out the exact number. Get those people off our voter rolls. Make sure they never become citizens, right? If they're illegals, make sure that they're deported. I mean, frankly, if they're legal immigrants and they registered to vote and voted, I would also say you should deport them. But I think some people will probably argue that you shouldn't. Maybe they didn't know. And sometimes there could be some ignorance involved with it. I remember once I was helping people register to vote. And this woman, I asked her, I was like, oh, do you want to register to vote? She said, oh, do you have to be a citizen to register to vote? And I was like, yes, you do. And then she's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not a citizen yet, so I can't register. I suspect that there are groups that when they get asked that question will tell the person, oh, yeah, you can totally register to vote. And then now the person was misinformed because someone actively did it. Maybe it's not fair to punish that person for doing that, right? There's an argument for it, at least. Okay, so let me see. There was just one other provision of this I liked. I like the whole bill. I think we should pass it, but it actually has a provision about audits. Let me see where I put this. Hold on. I actually take notes, before I do my show. I thought I had this. Where is it? Oh, require removal of non-citizens. Okay. Hold on. I'm getting there. Sorry. This is taking so long. Let me do a Control F. Here we go. Okay. So this does add a new provision saying a state shall remove a state shall remove an individual who is not a citizen of the United States from the official list of eligible voters for elections for federal office held in the state at any time upon receipt of documentation or verified information that a registrant is not a United States citizen. So this is interesting. It kind of this will help, right? Now, I don't know where the documentation would come from, but it's possible that even regular citizens, if they had documentation that someone is not a citizen, that they could send it in and then the lieutenant governor would have to investigate and then remove. So I think this SAVE Act is actually a good bill. It's one that we should pass. It's pretty basic that, like I said, right now, the onus is on elected officials to try to figure out who is not a citizen on our voter rolls. The SAVE Act shifts that burden to individuals, to all of us, which is better because we have our information to be able to give to them and to be able to show that we're citizens. I think this is a good thing. We want only citizens voting, not Democrats. Democrats want everybody voting because, like I said, cheating is kind of in their DNA. That's how they operate. The more cheating they can do, the happier they are. Okay, they are not a party that actually is pro rule of law, as they like to say. That's the only reason you bring in millions of people illegally. That's the only reason that you give them social security numbers, which they were doing. That's the only reason that you pay for their apartments with taxpayer money. You give them all sorts of government benefits. You are trying to get yourself voters for life. That's the only purpose of it. Okay, now let me get back to what I was going to show you guys. By the way, if anybody wants to call in, you're listening to the Goud crowd. This you can hear us on X. I'm doing this from memory here. Where you can hear us on X. You can also at KMMU.org. So X at my handle and I think it's Main Street Media Utah. And then you can also hear us on YouTube and Rumble at the Main Street Media Utah channels. If you want to call in, it's 385-899-2134. So I'm happy to take any calls. Feel free to call in. Let me talk about our next little topic. Hold on. There was one thing I wanted to do. Hold on. I had somebody. Okay. Then let me share. Where did this? Okay, I just had it. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm trying to find my other. What was this one? So earlier I was talking about my little vaccine issue. So one of the things that's been going on now is, I don't know if you guys all listened, but last week RFK Jr. had a press conference where he talked about autism and how they're making an effort to figure out what has caused autism rates to skyrocket in the US, right? And this is a chart showing the way that, I mean, this has gone from 1 in 10,000 kids to now, I think at his press conference, he said it's 1 in 31 kids. And you can kind of see like this is skyrocketing. I mean, in 1970 it was 1 in 10,000. In 95, it had gone, so in 25 years, it went to 1 in 1,000. I was born in 77, so I'm like around here somewhere. I don't know like what number that would be, but I mean, it's pretty low. It's still low here, right? But it's beginning, and then it just takes off. And, you know, like there could be all sorts of reasons for this, but I think we should know what those reasons are. And what's been kind of interesting is there's this push by a lot of parents who have autistic kids to say that, typically I'm saying it's like people with high functioning autistic kids saying, oh, you know, my child is perfect the way they are. We should celebrate neurodiversity. And, you know, we should stop. RFK Jr. insulted me, right? But if you actually listen to his press conference, he said something like 25% of autistic kids are nonverbal, like basically are not will never be really functioning adults. It doesn't mean that their life isn't worth living. I'm not saying that. But I do think that if we could prevent people from getting autism, meaning if it's being caused by something we are doing, why wouldn't we want to figure that out? And, you know, my own theory on it is I do think it's probably caused by vaccines. Like we just, you know, I don't know if there's a correlation between this number that you're seeing, this massive spike, and the number of vaccines that they give kids, which have increased over time. But we should at least study it and figure out what the issue is. Because I think even if you have a high functioning a child who's autistic and is high functioning, that you would, but if it was from something that we did, you'd want to not do that so that didn't happen. And I think part of what's driving this is let's say it is theoretically it's caused by vaccines, the parents had a role in it by allowing their child to be vaccinated. And maybe there's some guilt that goes with that, but I don't think there should be, because I think a lot of times these parents are going based on the best information that they have, and they're trusting doctors who should be trustworthy to tell them, to give them good information, when in reality the doctors aren't doing that. Because if the doctors were fully honest with you, they should disclose that if they can get a certain percentage of their kids vaccinated, that they're getting bonuses from the insurance or from the pharmaceutical companies. And so like they need to disclose their financial interests, and they need to tell you all of the pros and cons associated with the vaccines. And I just don't think that that's been happening. And so I feel like for parents out there that are feeling like, oh, well, if we find out that it's something that I did that's my fault, you shouldn't feel that way. I don't think it's your fault. I think maybe there's some guilt associated with it. Maybe there's a lesson to be learned about how to treat information being given to you by people that you think should be trustworthy. But I don't think it means that it's your fault. Those are different things. So I guess that's all I want to say about that. Okay, now, this is a good one. Okay, so we had talked before about the Salt Lake County Clerk's Office, right? And how Lanny Chapman had given this interview where she said that 90% of her full-time staff are women, right? And then when I called her out on it, she said it was not 90% of her full-time staff, and then she misspoke. I think I talked about it a couple weeks ago that she actually came back and so she said that she was wrong. She actually went to the PBS because I said, okay, if you're actually wrong, did you tell the PBS reporter that you misspoke? And then she finally did. And so she got it corrected. Okay, so then I asked her for a copy of the list of employees so I could see what the percentage of employees are that are men versus women. Well, I finally got it. I did a grammar request. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna show it to you. This just has names. Okay, I can show you this. So she sent me this list, which now I can't even. How do I do this? It's not showing up. Well, okay, so she's got 34 employees, and 10 are men. So that's about 1/3. 10 divided by 30. Whoops. 4. So 29% of her employees are men. So actually, I will give credit where it's due. It turns out that it is not 90% women. So she was right that she did misspeak, and it was not her full-time employees. I will say this, though. I'm a little bit disturbed that this is not a 50-50 office, right? I mean, Lanny Chapman, the big boss, the mayor of Salt Lake County, Suzanne Harrison, all these white liberal women that run the county, they are very pro DEI, and I am seeing a big problem here that only 1/3 of the employees are men. We need to have affirmative action, because if you want to have true parity, it needs to be 50-50. So that would be my challenge to Lanny Chapman. You need to live your principles about DEI and increase the number of men in your office. So it is 50-50. That's how it always should be. In every single profession out there, the only way it works is if it's 50% men, 50% women. And so I think we need to do an affirmative action program to get more men into the Salt Lake County Clerk's office. Same with her temporary employees, by the way. 90% women temporary employees. She has to work to get men to come and do it. And I think with DEI, if she's going to do that, she may have to pay the men more so that they'll come and work there. So I'd like to see that happen. Okay, now I want to show you one other thing. Let's see if I can I'm going to see if this is going to work for me, though, because oh wait, hold on, I already have it up. Give me 1 sec. I thought I just pulled it up somewhere here. Oh no, you know what I want? Okay, what should I do? Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about this opinion. So I had 2 things I could talk about here. One is I took this continuing legal education course. It was an update on the legislative session, and there were some really interesting video clips out of there. One from Brady Brammer and one from Mike McKell, and I wanted to play them for you because they are totally. I was sitting there just like, wow. I cannot believe that. Like Brady Brammer talks. I'm going to play them at some point. But the other thing we can talk about is I was reading the district court decision saying that the Utah Fits All scholarship is unconstitutional. Now I haven't finished it. I still have 10 pages left. But I just wanted to let me show you a few of these things in here that I'm very puzzled by. So let me go to pair. I'm actually going to show you these because, basically, I think this is an activist decision. And so, okay, here's the first thing. Why isn't this showing up? Okay, what do I do? Sorry, I don't know how to show this to you guys. And, maybe if I do this. Let's try this. Okay, I think this will work. Can you see it? Hold up. Okay, let me try again. Am I just missing this? Oh, whoops. Okay, hold on. Sorry, I'm struggling here to get this on the screen. I want you guys to see the decision while I'm talking about it, so this makes sense. Apparently, I have a lot of tabs open. This happens when I'm working on stuff. While I'm looking for this, I just wanted to mention that I am a lawyer and I have my own practice. So if you are looking for someone to help you with things like, you get sued or you want to sue somebody, let me think of what else. Personal injury lawsuits. If you have a small company, you need general counsel services, I can help with all of that stuff. Okay, let's see if this works. Boom. I think it's going to work. Okay, here we go. So let me go to page 9. Okay, so first of all, so the plaintiffs in this lawsuit, let's start at the beginning. The plaintiffs here are I don't know who this Kevin LaBrache is, Tara Cooper, Amy Barton, Carol Lear. She's on the state school board. She's a Democrat. I've heard from multiple people that there's some conflict of interest issues going on with her that might be worth exploring at some point. And the Utah Education Association. Okay, this is a union, and I'm actually unclear why they have standing. So, a lot of times in lawsuits, when a court wants to get rid of something, they'll dismiss it based on standing. And standing is basically, you need to have some sort of an injury to be able to sue, right? You can't just file random lawsuits. Well, in this case, so here, I thought this was interesting. The state argues that Carol Lear lacks standing to bring claims in her capacity as a member of the board. But then the state agreed that all the other plaintiffs have standing to assert these claims. So because that happened, the court declines. The court just didn't. They declined to decide the issue of Carol Lear's standing because the Attorney General's office conceded that all the other plaintiffs, including the Utah Education Association, had standing in the case. I just found that to be really bizarre because I would have thought that would be your first argument is the union has no standing. They don't even have an injury. I don't know what the injury is. Teachers got raises as a result of the law that created the Utah Fits All Scholarship. So what exactly is the complaint, right? There's no injury to the union or to the teachers. And then, by the way, the state of Utah banned collective bargaining for government employees. So I'm not even sure why they would have standing at all. We don't negotiate with them. So this is something interesting. I'm going to try to, I haven't looked at the brief that the state filed or their briefing. I'd be interested to see why they did this, but I might also reach out to the Attorney General's office and see if their communications person has any thoughts on it. Okay, so that's one piece of this. And did I say that, in this decision, the court said that the Utah Fits All Scholarship is unconstitutional under the Utah Constitution. So then if we go to the next page, I thought, this was wild to me. Okay. So, for the basic premise of how our government works is that we have 3 co-equal branches of government, right? So, at the federal level, you have the president, you have the legislature, and then you have the Supreme Court. Those are the co-equal branches of government. But what that means from a practical perspective is that every single branch of government is supposed to be interpreting and following the Constitution and pushing back against the other branches when they think that those branches are not following the Constitution. So just as an example, what's going on with President Trump right now is we have this activist judiciary. The federal judiciary is completely activist. And they've just completely run amok. And they're actually stepping into areas where they do not have authority, and even in areas where they've already said they don't have authority. So, for example, the president's invocation of the Alien Enemies Act, I think the Supreme Court already said that the courts don't have a role in that. We have a court that said that trannies have to be allowed to serve in the military. Last I checked, that's a district court. And let me just add, a district court in the way the federal system is set up, is not co-equal to the president or Congress. Only the Supreme Court is. Okay. A district court judge said you have to let trannies serve in the military. Last I checked, courts are not the commander in chief. They have no role in determining admission standards for the military. But this is kind of where we're at. And I actually think, for President Trump, he really has to push back on the judiciary. And to me, that means at some point, he's going to have to start saying, you're wrong. Your interpretation of the law is wrong, and we're not listening to it. If the Supreme Court is going to come out and say, oh, okay, well, the Democrats can import 20 million illegal aliens in 4 years, but you now have, with illegally, the whole program, everything they did was illegal. Treason. It was full-on treason. But now if you want to deport them, you have to give everybody due process. Like, no, we're not doing that. This was an invasion, and invaders get deported immediately. No due process. All we have to do is prove that you are not a citizen, and then you need a GTFO. Bye-bye, get out. That's hopefully where this is heading. But Trump I feel like Trump maybe is beginning to understand this, because this is an issue. This is a 90-10 issue in favor of Trump and the Republicans. And so you should lean into this, and we need to start. What's happening right now is we have judicial supremacy going on, unelected federal judges thinking that they get to just do whatever they want, and we have to listen. And I think the answer to that is no, no, no. So hopefully Trump is picking up on this. I love this post by him. And this is a great issue to fight this on. We're not doing judicial supremacy. You actually do, like, the 9 unelected judges on the Supreme Court, you still have to stay within your parameters and within your role. And when you step out of it, I can push back and say, no, we're not doing that. Sorry. Like, we're at the point where the courts think they can step in and maybe like declare war. That's how crazy this is. And there are models for what they're doing. You have that the Supreme Court justice in Brazil has been going crazy issue, like basically running that country. Israel's having the same issue with their activist Supreme Court. There's a model, and this is another one of these models come up with these global organizations to destroy the US and other countries like it. So we have to push back. But I think this decision, and at least what I've read so far, has some of the same problems. So let me just show you this, because this was wild to me. According to, I guess the Utah Supreme Court has said this, the power and duty of ascertaining the meaning of a constitutional provision resides exclusively with the judiciary. That's nuts. Okay, that's not co-equal branches of government. If the courts are saying we are the only ones that can interpret the constitutional provisions, they're basically saying that we're not co-equal, we are supreme to you. That's not how this works. This actually kind of takes away from the balance of power that the system is built with, and that's a problem. So that's another part I saw that was kind of interesting. Okay, then the court talks about Article 3, which I think is up here of the Constitution. This is interesting for those of you who have noticed how our schools are full of woke garbage. So, fourth, this is what Article 3 of the Constitution says. So, the legislature shall make laws for the establishment and maintenance of a system of public schools which shall be open to all the children of the state and be free from sectarian control. All right, so when you read through more of the court's decision, this sectarian control is aimed at religions, right? So you're not supposed to have religious schools. Granted, I kind of think we need them at this point. We need God more than anything else. But what's kind of interesting is that our schools are full of the trans agenda. Okay, it's being pushed all over Utah. I've traveled into rural parts of Utah and literally had parents tell me that the trans agenda is promoted to their children in their elementary schools. I had people in Fairview tell me this. I mean, this is like a rural area where you think that it's one thing, where you think this wouldn't happen, because it's one thing if you tell me, okay, in Salt Lake County, which is full of liberal white ladies, they're promoting the trans agenda. Yeah, okay, I see that. That makes sense. But when you tell me that they're promoting the trans agenda in Fairview, Utah, or in other rural parts of Utah, it's very puzzling to me. But I think that's a form of religion. And what you'll find is typically the people that promote that are not religious. They don't believe in God. And they've replaced that with this belief in like the LGBTQIAFU agenda or other similar agendas. And so I wonder if this provision could be used to completely eradicate the trans agenda from our schools. Maybe all woke ideologies, really, because we should really get DEI out. DEI is another form of religion. All of these left-wing lunatic agendas, we should maybe be looking to the Utah Constitution as a way to get rid of them. Okay, I have other thoughts on this case too, but I may have to do this next week. I have one more quick thing I'll say is the court also goes through and interprets different propositions that have been passed by voters. And so it's looking for how to interpret the proposition. And I found it fascinating because they're not really looking first to the language, but they're actually looking outside of it to outside sources as well. So I should say, if the language is clear, there's no real reason to start looking at outside sources. But here they actually look to outside sources to see what voters thought that they were enacting when they voted for a particular proposition. One of the places they consider to be a reliable source is the Salt Lake Tribune. I was like, oh, come on. This is, of course, what do you think you're going to get from the Salt Lake Tribune? It's not going to be left-wing crap. And that's not going to give you a good, reliable interpretation of what Republican voters in Utah were thought they were voting for when they enacted a proposition. Like, come on. Anyway, okay. I will try to finish this decision by next week and give you more thoughts on it. I think it's an interesting decision, though, because the court really is it's an activist decision. And so our legislature has some choices they're going to have to make if they want to keep the Utah Fits All Scholarship, or even really have any scholarship program in Utah, or any way to be able to help families that want to homeschool, that want to pull their kids out of public schools. We are out of time today, so thank you for listening to the Goud Crowd, and we will see you next time. Thanks a lot, guys. Good night.